All right, guys, let's get busy talking about mature ego defenses, which are productive ways that our patients deal with trauma or stress, as opposed to our immature ego defenses. We'll start out by talking about suppression, which is when patients intentionally remove focus from difficult emotions or past events. And this is really productive because this is an intentional decision. And that's key. I'm actually going to highlight in red because it's so important. This differentiates it from repression, which is subconscious and not intentional. So, an example of suppression would be a surgeon who's preparing for incoming trauma. Instead of focusing on potential patient mortality, our surgeon, she is going to organize her nursing staff, organize her instruments to ensure that she is focusing on everything that she can do best for her patient instead of focusing on potential bad outcomes. So let's next talk about altruism, which is going to be relief of stress or grief or difficult emotions by doing productive things for society. So an example would be an ex-con artist who, let's say, made a lot of money off of crime in his past. He is going to donate money to a children's hospital in order to relieve some of those difficult past memories. And this is a productive use of his money because he's doing it to help others and it's helping him deal with past trauma of being a not so good person. Next, let's talk about sublimation, which is going to be swapping of difficult emotions or feelings for ways that are making those emotions and feelings productive. So, an example of this would be someone who's suffering from heartbreak, and the desire to act out, which is an immature ego defense, is replaced with something productive. So, an example of this would be writing poetry to process those difficult, heartfelt, heartbreak emotions instead of like calling or texting your ex nasty text messages. So this is a very productive way of dealing with difficult emotions, and that's why it's a mature ego defense. Lastly, we have humor, which is going to take the pressure off of difficult or stressful situations by having internal or external dialogues that are comical and lighthearted. So, an example of this would be high school students preparing for the SAT or ACT, and they exchange jokes about these exams in order to take some of the pressure off of this really high stakes time. And one thing I want to note is that when we're talking about altruism and sublimation, those are both mature versions of reaction formation. So you'll remember reaction formation is when you have non-congruent behavior in order to cope. So an example that I gave of reaction formation was hating your teacher but doing really well on her quizzes and exams just to spite her or just to revenge her. That productive behavior is out of spite and out of revenge, which is why reaction formation is non-productive, it is immature. Whereas altruism and sublimation are behaviors that are done out of good spirit, and that is why they are mature ego defenses. Lastly, I want to give you guys a mnemonic to remember all of these. So the mnemonic is going to be SASH, SASH. And these are all going to be productive, mature ego defenses. So SASH spells out all of these mature ego defenses, and that is how you're going to remember it by remembering SASH. And that is a good way to remember this on test day. Since we talked about our immature and mature ego defenses, let's also talk about transference, which is when patients are going to frame emotions they have for important individuals on their lives towards physicians or other providers. So, an example here would be a patient who sees their provider as if she or he is their father or mother. And that would be an example of transference. Whereas countertransference is the exact opposite of transference. So the physician or provider is going to direct feelings onto the patient. An example of this would be a physician who sees his son in his pediatric patient that he is treating.